They told me for years there was no money in podcasting. Well, they were all wrong.
And that's the whole crazy thing about this world. Like, why'd you reach out to me? There's a reason I'm on this podcast. Maybe it's just for you and I to have a conversation, or it could be something much bigger, or the start of something new. But unless we explore it, we're never going to know.
Yeah. Well, that's why the first question, one of the first ones I asked before we started is, do you have a podcast? Because a podcast is such a great networking tool. Like there are multiple reasons why I do this podcast, as well as the Ambiguous podcast solution where I talk to podcasters. Yes, it's a networking tool. It's a way for you to get to know my business. It's a way for me to get to know your business. It's a way to see if we can match up. But also the main reason I podcast is for personal growth. I podcast for personal growth because this conversation we're having, me listening to you and bouncing back and forth, this really builds my interpersonal communication skills with people. So when I go to a networking event in the city, or I do like a local meet and greet in Hoboken, it's just like, it's so much easier for me to just talk to strangers. And it's
practice, man. You gotta put the reps in.
And it's clicks. And it's just like, I genuinely like hearing people's perspectives. Like I like hearing a story of it's like, wow, I beat a heart attack. Right? Or some guy yesterday I was talking to who works in Houston, Texas with schools. He's like one of those guest speakers, talks about, building better men for little kids. Like that stuff is really great to talk to. I talked to some guy in New Zealand who was an amazing guy I talked to some guy who was one of the very first podcasts. He started podcasting in 2006 to me, which was like, I have so much I want to ask you. And like, even doing these podcasts, I find myself more curious in real life. I'm asking more questions to a bunch of people in real life. I want to learn more skills. And I get to go to my boss like, hey, I want to learn more to help my job better and as well as make my business better. All that comes from podcasting.
That's how it should be. And I've helped people transition from, marriages or careers. And I always tell them, listen, you got to leave being the best at what you're doing.
Yep.
Because that energy is what you're going to take into the next thing you do. Because otherwise you're taking all the crap with you. It's like, why does a person leave a bad relationship and they think they start a great relationship and it's just like the other one? Because they didn't put 100% effort into that relationship. And granted, you put 100% in and it still doesn't work, or the other person's not into it, you can walk away feeling confident you did everything perfect. So now you're ready for that next relationship that's been waiting for you. And I know a lot of guys who are intimidated by successful women because why do they need me? Like, it's not that they need you. They want you. When they're that successful, they get what they want. They don't need. The big thing about life is I don't work with people who need me anymore. I only work with people who want to work with me.
Yeah.
And there's a different level of energy when you start doing that. Like, I never left my friends or left my old clients. I just moved on to other people. I still communicate with them, but I'm focused over here. Is there anything wrong with that? No, because we all are evolving in some frame or fashion. We just have to decide, how are we going to get there? Is it going to be by trying to pull people along with us, or is it going to be people reaching out to us to help us, that we're like, hey, here's an opportunity, let's go?
Yeah.
And that's what I look for, is opportunities.
No, that's very relatable, because like one thing we offer here at APS is like podcast mentoring or coaching. And me, from a production background, I can teach you a lot about, how to host a podcast, like how to make a good intro, how to formulate questions, how to edit, how to like write a description. But at the same time, it's just like, I want you in and out. My goal is to make sure you don't need these, because I want to make sure you can do it by yourself, because that's the only way to podcast, really. Like, I learned all by myself. I had some training from school, like how to use technical things. But in terms of podcasting, I learned from doing and I learned from listening. And the goal is to listen, you go through this and we meet like maybe 4 or 5 times and bye, go do it.